know?
Is there anything that any of those art teachers told you to go do and you're against it, and then you did it and you're like, oh, that was good?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I got kicked out of USC for. That's a funny story. I said, can I paint on the roof or paint the roof? And my teacher said yes.
There's a very distinct difference there between those two things you just said. Which, let's clarify. Was it paint on the roof or paint the roof?
I don't remember. But
there lies the problem.
I painted the roof. So,
we have no idea what's going to happen.
All right. Welcome to the. Oh,
sorry, go ahead.
Welcome to the MNO Show with Risk.
Welcome.
thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining
being here.
us.
You guys are so pro, man. I'm like very impressed.
All we do, we just have lights.
It's just we have nothing. We have an iPhone for our thing, so this is very impressive. So,
Well, I was talking a little bit about this when John was setting us up, but like what you do is pretty cool, and I found myself watching for like 45 minutes, laying in bed, watching you hang out with like really cool people, and
yeah, your show's amazing.
Yeah, your
It's
show's
fun.
awesome.
I was just telling him, we got picked up by Tilt. We're getting paid to do the show now. And it's
That's
like such
amazing.
a weird thing to us, but like it just went through the other day. So starting, I think probably, I don't know, next week or January, we're going to start doing it again. I'm looking forward to it.
That's good.
We should do one from here.
Would love to.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Yeah, that would be amazing.
Oh, shit. You know what I just thought of? Can I
What?
say shit?
Yeah. Say anything you want.
Shit.
Anything you want.
Remember the painting I was looking for, King Cake and Sex, for the can?
Yeah.
Dude, I totally didn't even think about this. It's in my studio right now as we speak. The guy that bought it from the museum hit me up to frame it, and I framed it. And it's sitting in the fucking studio right now.
Okay.
And as I came over here, I just saw it. I didn't even think about this until I just saw your faces, and I was like, oh, shit. We should shoot that.
Let's go shoot it.
Yeah. It's sitting there right now. It'll be gone Monday, but I'll shoot it.
Okay.
Tell me about this. What is this?
It's just a canvas that I did, and I was trying to find it, and I could never find it. And it would be great for a can. And we talked about doing some like King Cake beer.
We're going to do a collab beer that we were going to try and do like around Mardi Gras time.
Yeah.
And then and it's going to be like a pastry stout. And so Risk came up with the idea to do the that piece of art
For the can.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like it's Mardi Gras colors. It's real. It's kind of color washy like my stuff, but like it's more just like it would be like white, purple, green kind of thing.
Cool.
But anyway, I totally just thought of that.
Now you did the liquid candy can, right?
Yeah.
He did all the cores.
Really?
Yeah, we have 4 cores: blonde, Tarantula IPA, liquid candy, and Cali Day. All 4 of those are Risk cans. Yeah, when we first started talking about it, obviously we didn't even know we were going to be doing distribution, but then we just they're just so amazing, and we asked him if we could do those 4. Because I think initially we were talking about like doing like 8 cans with you, and then those 4 ended up being those. But people love them. I mean, they're amazing.
Yeah, it's cool because I did the Monster can, and people hit me up for those, and now people are starting to hit me up for these. You know, I'm like, I don't know, go in there and get them. I don't have them. You know? But it's cool.
So let's dig back. I've known you a little bit recently. John's known you for quite a long time. I want to go way back. Are you originally from Louisiana?
I am. I'm from New Orleans.
So when did you come out to Southern California?
So I came out in like 7th grade, but I didn't come to Southern California. I went to Lake Tahoe.
Okay.
In like 7th grade. I got kicked out of school. I quit school in 7th grade. My mom was a teacher. I caused a lot of problems for her. My parents were divorced. I was a problem kid. I went to visit my dad. I remember landing in Reno. and I saw snow out the plane or something. My mom's like, "You like that?" I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "Cool, because you're staying here." And I was like, "What the fuck?"
Oh man.
And that was it, man. I went to school in Lake Tahoe for 7th grade. I had to redo 7th grade because I quit school. And then I think by 8th grade I was in Manhattan Beach, and then I was all over the South Bay. 9th grade, I was like in Palos Verdes, I think, and then by 10th grade I was back in LA, and that's from that point on. I stayed. And up until 10th grade, I went to a different school every semester.
Wow.
It was crazy, you know? And then when I was like 16, I ran away. And it wasn't like this big traumatic runaway. It was like, my dad's like, "Oh, so you think you're a man?" I'm like, "Yeah, fuck yeah." And he's like, "All right, cool. Make sure you're home every Friday for dinner." I'm like, "Okay."
Where'd you
That was
go?
it. I got this like roach nest fucking little studio. It was a little shack on Hollywood Boulevard. That it was a storage room, and a friend of mine's dad owned the building. I told him I wanted to paint there as my studio. He's like, "Cool, just you can't stay here overnight or anything." I was like, "Cool." So every time they'd lock up to go home at night, I'd hide in the closet, and I lived there.
Oh man.
And I fucking lived there for years, like a long fucking time.
Hollywood and what?
Ivar.
Ivar. Okay.
Yeah, it was cool.
I lived on Selma.
Yeah, right there.
And right there.
By the gas lamp, you know, like remember it was the old biker bar at one time, went all the way through.
Yep.
It turned into like the opium den or something.
Yep.
It was kind of
The opium den
that was like
legit.
that was cool. But
Yeah.
before that, it was a gas lamp. It was a biker
Gas
bar.
lamp. Yeah, I remember that.
Dude, it was so nuts. Like the place, I remember like not watching. I had to go down and help like fucking people, like chicks getting raped in the alley and fucking
Oh my God.
junkies. Like, and I was like living there, little kid living there, and I'd go down the elevator shaft and I'd pull hoses up and shit for water and electricity. I had extension cords up this abandoned elevator shaft. And then years later, my friend's dad eventually knew I lived there. And he was like, "Dude." And everything was cool, so I fell through the roof one night. He had a car
I hate
showroom.
when that happens.
He had a car showroom below, and my foot went through, and that kind of fucked everything up. But that place was cool. Little known fact, the first Cypress Hill show in Los Angeles was in the basement of my studio. We built out this club in the basement, and it was the first Cypress Hill show.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's legendary.
Yeah, it was cool.
So I'm going on a limb here. Did you quit school because you just wanted to paint? It sounded like you're
Well,
painting
no,
already.
at that time, I didn't quit school. I finished school. And
Oh,
everything.
you did go.
Yeah, and then I went back and forth to my house and everything. It wasn't like a big deal. My dad was just like, "Whatever, do what you want to do." But he was like really harsh on like, my dad was a drug dealer. My dad was all these things, but he was really harsh on school, and he wanted me to do good in school. And his goal was for me to graduate USC. For some reason, that was his fucking dream and goal, and I did. He made that happen, and he gave me a lot of freedom. And he dealt with a lot of shit. I got shot, I got stabbed, I went to jail. All those things he didn't care about as long as my grades were up. He's like, "I don't care what the fuck you did, as long as those grades are up and you get to USC." And I had some hiccups, and I eventually got to USC and I graduated. And that's all that he cared about.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was fun. It was good. My dad, I learned a lot from him. He instilled he was a tough dude, but my dad was a very interesting guy. He passed the bar, and never wanted to be a lawyer, just to represent himself. So he'd hire lawyers, and he'd advise them what to do for himself. It's pretty crazy.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
What year did you move to Thousand Oaks?
Well, Charlie's 16, so 16 years ago. So I was in LA and I had a lot of problems, legal problems and stuff, and it wasn't a good environment for the kids.
Yeah.
And I was dating this girl at the time, and her parents lived on the same street. All the Ramoses.
Yep.
Marisa and her brothers, and they lived on the same street. And we used to come here on the weekends to get away from LA. And I was like, "Man, if you ever find a street down the street for your mom, we should buy the house." And she found one the next week, and we got the house. I was like,
She
"Fuck."
took you serious.
Real serious. And I got the house, and it sat there vacant for like a year, and then we finally pulled it off. And then everything happens for a reason, man, because I remember the economy crashed and we started losing shit, and I was stuck with that house. And then all of a sudden I lost 2 properties, I lost my house, lost my company, lost all this shit, and I was all of a sudden here, and all of a sudden I had to start building studios here, and I hated it. And then all of a sudden I couldn't imagine being anywhere else now. I love it.
Yeah.
I used to drive 2 or 3 times to LA and back in a day, and now it's lucky if you get me to go there once a fucking week,
Yeah. What year was Third Rail? What was the?
I think we started in 91.
91.
Yeah. think 91.
91 to what? Like, I mean, obviously.
It went like 18 years or something.
18 years hard.
Yeah.
Like, what was like the heyday though?
Oh man, I don't know, man. The 90s, the 90s were fucking. The late 90s.
Yep.
Were fucking hard. You know, they went hard. And you know, I remember I traveled the world for a year one time. Like for a year, I didn't come home, just visiting distributors around the world and stuff. You know.
Yeah.
And I was like, it was cool, but I was like, I was high. You know,
Yeah.
I was like, fucking. You know, I was in a bubble. I was like, what the fuck's going on? Like, it wasn't reality, but it was great. I wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, and then it's interesting because, like you said, like obviously I grew up here in this town, and like I said, grew up with the Ramoses.
Did you skate the ramp?
I did skate the ramp.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just had Dave Carlson on here the other day, and he was like one of the like legendary Ramos ramp skaters.
Yeah.
You know, I did get to skate the ramp. Yeah, that was like. Yeah, I mean, that was like legendary shit.
I saw photos and I heard about it, you know?
Yeah.
But I still meet people like, oh, the Ramos is the ramp?
Yeah. And like Paul, like it was just like the most memorable thing, like one of my most vivid memories just in life is just him skating with just no shoes and no shirt, just shorts, just destroying that ramp. Like, you know, like, and you know, I don't know, like just it was scary. Like it was scary to watch. Like I'm all there with like my elbow pads, my knee pads, my helmet, I'm like
that was me too.
Yeah, I'm like this dude's just blasting ollie airs with literally no shoes on, and the ramp was a killer too. It was like couple feet of vert. Yeah, you know, it was like a 12-foot ramp with like 3 feet of vert. Like it was a mean ramp. It wasn't a beginner ramp. Yeah. But it's interesting because obviously I know you from the Ramoses, but then I also know you through Zinger. Yeah. And then I also know you through Darren. Darren was actually the one that initially like hooked us up when I came out here. And that was through what? How do you know Darren?
Oh, wow. I know Darren through the bike scene, you know, a lot of bikes. He was always into cars. I used to ask him advice for cars, but I know him through bikes. I think Trevelyan from Super Company. That's how I know him.
He used to build bikes at, what was that shop in Venice?
Yeah. On Lincoln Boulevard, right?
On Lincoln,
Yeah.
He built there before he started working for Brad. I think Brad was like building bikes with those guys.
I think as far as I knew, like Brad kept coming in there asking him questions or something, and he eventually just was like,
he's like, why don't you just come work at my shop?
Yeah.
Why am I having to come here to talk to you? Yeah. Oh, here comes the chef.
Nice.
Bring on the chef.
Colin
the chef. I actually remember. You should change your name to Colin, chef. It would make my life easier. Colin the chef. Call in the chef. Oh
my gosh.
Bonus.
What are we doing?
Yeah, hit that.
Chef, tell me what we got here.
We have the award-winning chili verde.
This is award-winning chili verde. This is multiple time award-winning. Conejo Valley chili, the chili cook-off.
Nice.
Chef won first place. Buellton.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is an amazing. This is a chili verde. This is IPA beer braised pork, right? Yeah, beer braised pork. Underwood Ranch's green jalapenos, which they don't have a lot of, as we found out, right? They're mostly red. So the green ones for them are rare.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
Is that a thing, or is it because they try to grow the red ones? They only try to grow the red ones, and every now and then you get a green one. So they make this, and then it's tough for us to get that.
Is that just at Underwood or everywhere?
I think it's just Underwood. I think green is the more common one, right? Yeah, green's more common, but they try to grow the red one because they were growing the peppers for sriracha.
For the sriracha.
For the sriracha.
The ones with the chicken on them,
yes, exactly.
Right?
So they were do those for them, and then that went sideways. And then what kind of what are these? Kushi oysters. Are those? Where is Kushi's from? Do you know? Is that Japan? So Japanese oysters.
All right.
Awesome. cool.
We should probably start with the oysters because the chili is probably gonna melt your palate.
Gotcha.
It's got some kick to it.
Some
All
kick.
right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, chef. So these are Cushies. There's Tabasco, there's lemon, and then there's this stuff, which is like the.
Do we need plates? Or we just
yeah.
figure it out.
Do we need plates, or should we just
Figure it out.
and we'll chuck the shells on this guy?
All right.
So I'm a big oyster fan coming from New Orleans, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of oysters.
Some of the, definitely the gnarliest crab oil I've ever been to in my life is at your house.
Yeah, crawfish are back in season. We're almost
Is it?
ready. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they are.
He does these amazing. They bring out like multiple
I've seen
100-gallon
people do this before,
pots
but
of-
I've never done one.
Yeah,
of
and then they
those.
just dump it out on the table, and everybody stands around the table and
Yeah.
sucks out crawdads and sausages and corn, and it's really amazing.
It's good shit.
And that's a New
Yeah.
Orleans thing, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And that's one place in the U.S. that is, I think, the most unique
Yeah.
out of anywhere else in the U.S. I really
Agreed.
feel like it's like I'm in a different country.
I really think so. Like, I really believe. People say, "Do you think that a lot of your creativity comes from New Orleans?" I don't know if my creativity comes from New Orleans, but it's a different mindset. And the people there just kind of just go for shit, and just I don't know, build and they will come kind of thing,
Yeah.
And I've always been like that, And I think that comes from there for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, some of my it's definitely one of my favorite cities on the planet.
Yeah.
Mine too.
Yeah, by the first time I went there, a friend of mine, Jay, he worked at a record label, and he had he was from Staten Island, so he was like a straight hustler.
Yeah.
He had all these hustles, and he could get front row tickets to any concert basically outside of LA and New York. So it was tougher to get good seats in those markets, basically, whatever. So
Yeah.
so and then he had a friend who worked at Continental Airlines, and he would hook her up. She could fly anywhere in the country for $20.
Yeah.
So he'd get her Pearl Jam tickets, front whatever, in when they played in Idaho or something.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know? And one time he got us tickets to Marilyn Manson in New Orleans.
Wow, that's a good one.
Dude.
Marilyn
That's a good
yeah.
one.
In the it probably was his second record. It was after the Cake and Sodomy one. It was the I can't remember what the second record was called, but yeah. And we went in the Bible Belt though,
Yeah.
and him standing up there ripping pages out of the Bible and people going just bananas.
What's
and,
so cool about that though is because New Orleans has that whole kind of would you ghost or
Voodoo.
voodoo.
Yeah,
Has the
voodoo
whole
and
voodoo thing.
definitely the dark arts are present.
I took I go all the time, and I went this year. I think I had a show in Austin, and it was a really good show. And I took my girlfriend and a couple of my daughters, to New Orleans from the show just to kind of celebrate. And I wanted to do all the stuff that, I didn't want to do it. I just thought they should do it,
Yeah.
all
Right.
the tourist shit. I'm like,
Yeah.
let's
Yeah,
do the horse and carriage tour. Let's do all that
Yeah.
bullshit. And it was fucking amazing. I'm so glad I did it because I didn't know all the stuff that I learned. I
Right.
didn't know. I was like, oh shit.
I've
Yeah.
done some of those there, the voodoo thing,
It's
that.
fucking
Yeah.
crazy. And they told me all this stuff, and I'm like, I feel dumb because I forgot it all already. But I was blown away by it.
Yeah.
So this was on fire, and he ran down the street with his head on fire and cut her head off and did this. I'm like, and it's all true. You're like, what the fuck?
And why are the graves above ground?
Because they're below sea level.
It is because of okay.
Yeah. So people, one of the mystiques about New Orleans is all the bones came up, and they all said that's voodoo, and it's not. It's just naturally the shit comes up, so they had to build them in these
Tombs,
so to
yeah.
speak.
Yeah.
And that was part of the mystique. And New Orleans people said it's so fucking
Yeah.
haunted that the arms come up. It's like,
Yeah. It's like the Thriller video.
yeah.
Let's eat one.
I don't know how to eat these right.
I would
I'm gonna admit to you guys. I'm like,
scoop a little bit on there.
Okay.
That's really a good way to do it.
what is
And
this?
then you can just it's like a
Jeff,
cocktail sauce.
Like a cocktail sauce,
Yeah,
okay.
but
Oh,
it's
that's good.
homemade here.
Let's get you to stare
And
into
you-
your mic,
You have to
Jeff.
break this out
or
of here.
into your camera, Jeff, as you eat that. Let's get you to stare right into it.
No, I'm
And then
not.
you can just suck it right out of the shell.
The look Kelly gave me was priceless. Like, you gonna do that?
Those are good.
That was good.
It's very good.
Those are legit.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, we have to drink when I say legit? That's the thing?
They are legit, though, so.
Yeah, they are good.
You said legit again.
Yeah. Well, only when. Oh,
It doesn't count. It doesn't count. When
you caught that. I didn't
Jeff
even.
says
No, I said it, but then John said it.
How often do you guys have oysters here?
We usually have them. They're kind of on the secret menu. I think, if you come in, just ask if we have oysters.
Well,
and we usually do.
Usually, every time I'm here, you usually have them. They're always great.
Yeah. We
that
usually
was bomb.
we try to get the Japanese ones, usually, because they're so good. We usually get I think, what are they called? Those are kushi, and then sometimes we get like, I want to say Kumamoto, but I think that's a dragon.
I was going to say Kumamoto too. So I don't know.
Maybe. And then, all right.
Something moto.
And the chili. This chili is one of my favorites.
Oh, that's good.
I feel like we should have stopped filming so I could just eat this entire bowl right now.
That. That's the other thing that I love about
bomb.
New Orleans is obviously the food.
Yeah.
The French.
Yep.
The French influence and where France meets the South. It's its own unique.
So unique.
It's just so good.
You know, the first thing we learned in school as preschoolers is they call New Orleans a melting pot. And they compare it to like gumbo and all these food dishes with all the cultures. So, kind of cool.
Yeah, gumbo's. A good gumbo. That's right. That's what we're going to do back to the beer was we're going to do beignets in the beer.
Oh.
Yeah, remember he came in and brought me all these boxes of the beignet mix so we can make. We're going to make the beignets here and put them in the beer. When is Mardi Gras? February or something? March?
Yeah, March. It's Fat Tuesday, right? So, what's that? March?
That's like the first or second Tuesday of March or something like that?
Yeah. It's in the spring, I know that.
Yeah. So we'll do that beer then. It's going to be good.
That'd be awesome.
It's going to be a pastry stout with beignets.
Risk, one of the questions I had for you
Yep.
around art, when John talks about commercial, like, when they made music, it's like, hey, I want to make like commercial music.
Yeah, like hits.
Hits, right?
Thank you.
What was the path for you to go from being an artist and then, like, for lack of better words, so like finding a way to get people to care about what you're actually making that they wanted to like lay money down? There's so many artists out there that probably just try to find their path, and I'm just curious what your path was on that.
Well, as far as like the commercial side of it, commercial art and getting paid to do art, it was before gallery stuff. And what happened was I lived in Hollywood in the studio. And living in Hollywood, I was fortunate enough to go and see movies being filmed and videos and stuff like that. And I'd always see all the graffiti in the background, and I'd laugh. I was like, this shit's so fucking retarded. Like, you can't really say that word. But, like, they would use hairspray and stuff, and they do all this graffiti. And I was like, man, it just bothered me. So I said, hey, you guys want some real graffiti over there? And they're like, go away, kid, and whatever. And then I started doing it for craft services. Like, if they had craft services, I'll do some free graffiti if I can eat. And they're like, cool. And then they started calling me. They're like, hey, man, I got $50 for you. Come spray this garage. I got $100 for you. And then, long story short, believe it or not, within a short period of time, I did, like, MTV and Budweiser and Playboy and everything you can imagine. And then I got a call from Michael Jackson. And I did this video. I did The Way You Make Me Feel. And I designed the video, and I painted it. And then at that point right there, I was like, wait a minute. And I got, like, a huge check for me at the time. It was, like, huge.
Right.
Which is not a huge check, but at the time was fucking huge. And I was like, wait a minute, this is real. And I was a commercial artist painting for, Playboy and MTV and all these people and all this stuff. And then I realized that I didn't want to be a commercial artist. I was like, fuck that, man. I'm not writing Playboy and Budweiser and bullshit. I want to do Risk. And I started transforming, not knowing I was becoming a gallery artist. I was transforming right before my own eyes. And then I won the world championship in London in, like, I don't know, 89 or something. And collectors would come and say, can I buy some canvases? And I'm like, you sure? They're like, how much? I'm like, I don't know. Give me 10 grand, I'll give you a truck full of canvases. And I'm like, what? All right. And I had no idea what I was doing. Everything was 10 grand. If you asked me for one canvas, 10 grand. A truckload of canvas, 10 grand. Like, it's like, it was just 10 grand. And then that was it. And then so I started doing that, and then I started becoming a gallery artist. And when I say gallery artist, I was dabbling in fine arts. And I was so headstrong with this shit that I didn't want to sell it. I was like, man, my graffiti is like almost sacred to me. I don't want people to have it. It's just for the streets and for me. And I was making my money with Third Rail, so I didn't need the money. And then it wasn't until way later, man, like when I moved out here and I sold Third Rail and I had to depend on art, that I did gallery shows. And it completely changed my whole outlook on stuff. And I was like, it was like starting over. But yeah, that's the whole lineage of how it happened.
But it's interesting, I think, like in the art world, we talk about like film and music. Obviously, there's so many different forms of art or whatever, and like in the world you're in, like the fine art world, like you are like you're like a hybrid version because you're an entrepreneur. Like I would say, like, I mean, your mind is so entrepreneurial, and like how you.
That's where the SC comes in,
Yeah, yeah. You got just some business degree in there somewhere.
I tried to get a major in business, and I wound up switching my major to fine arts, but I did take business classes, and my dad was like that.
Yeah.
My dad was like, he sold drugs to buy commodities to launder money. Like he did all these things, and it was never to when I say drugs, it was like 70s and stuff. So it was like fun drugs.
Yeah.
It wasn't like
yellow pills, red pills.
it was like he wasn't like peddling drugs on the corner kind of thing. But anyway, it was always a means to an end. It was always like to form a business and to get capital and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he taught me about businesses, and I loved vertical businesses. I loved with Third Rail, man. We went from like selling T-shirts out of a backpack on Melrose to 3 stories next to Guess, and I had like cutting and sewing and manufacturing.
Yeah.
I even had a print shop printing my labels and POPs. So I love that whole aspect of it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's when like an entrepreneurial mind meets an artistic mind, you get these types of things, And it was like we were just talking recently about like back in the day, like I was talking about, like Michelangelo was like sponsored by the church, like that dude had endless, somebody sponsored him basically, like he was sponsored and got to do all this work and live like a king.
Yeah.
And then I was kind of paralleling that to like the way the record labels used to be, that era ending in like 2000 basically, but like in the 90s and obviously like the 80s, one of the greatest eras of music, because there was so much money to be made in the music industry. Wherever they were sponsoring all these artists and a lot, like giving them all the tools and everything, that getting them in the studio and giving them producers, and so there was like this, it was like a renaissance.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. And so it's now it's a bit of a Wild West it's a
DIY, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Completely different, right?
Yeah.
But it's crazy. It's the first time, in my life that I felt like I'm old when I talk to my daughters. Like, what the fuck's he doing?
Yeah.
Like, what? He's a what?
Yeah.
He's a YouTuber. Like,
yeah,
let me check this out. I'm like, what? Like, I don't get it. But I get it, but I don't get it. But Michelangelo, you talk about Michelangelo. Someone just asked me who's the one person in the world I'd love to be, my dream would be Michelangelo,
Why is that?
Man, so many reasons. But like, when I was at the Vatican, I was checking out his work in the chapel. I thought it was so punk rock that he had critics, right, that would talk shit, and he painted one of them in the corner with a serpent eating his dick.
That's gangster.
That's gangster, bro. And, you know, when people said he's a sculptor, he's like, I'm a sculptor, I'm a painter. I'm not a painter, I'm a sculptor. I love that. He's just like, when you're on top of your game, you just switch it up, right?
Yeah.
That's the key to all fucking geniuses, I think, you know?
Yeah.
We're in the process of switching up the studio right now, and my inner team is like, what are you doing? We're killing it. I'm like, it's over. It's done. And they're like, what? And I'm like, just new shit. You know?
Do you do that? Do you think you do that for growth? To keep growing?
I do. I mean, with me, it's like, you know, coming from the streets and coming from graffiti and coming from, you know, people bite your style all the time. That's part of it. I don't get mad about that shit. I would get disappointed if they didn't. You know, I think that's what people are supposed to do. That's, you know, the highest form of a compliment, I guess. I don't know. But I do think that it's your fault if you get stale and let people just run all over your shit. You got to change it up. Yeah. And, you know, there's a lot of kids that are like, people that are nobodies that could do my stuff better than me now. I'm like, okay, cool. Nobody's fault, my fault. I gave them the playbook and they fucking ran with it. So now I got to change it up, you know? It is what it is.
Yeah. What was you got to work in Michelangelo's studio?
Yeah, so that was shit. That shit was crazy. So I did. I painted in his studio. I was the only person in the last 400 years to paint in his studio.
Just 400 years. No.
Just 400 years.
Insane.
And I got to be privy to a lot of stuff. Like I saw, I got knighted, by the way. So that the whole thing is because I got knighted by the Medici family.
So that's why you were able to go in there, because you're...
Yes, the Medici family owned
Sir
this
Risk.
church.
Do you have a photo of being knighted?
I do.
All right.
Video
Can
of
you
it.
give it to us so we can drop it in?
Yeah, it's
to
gonna
the
drop.
episode.
Yeah, I can find it. Yeah, I'd thrown up the West Side sign too. It's a good photo. Oh,
It was the Medici upside down.
Yeah, that's what speaking of that, my girlfriend just found the robe where I got knighted in the closet. I thought it was stolen like a couple years ago, and she's cleaning up the closet. She goes, "What is this?" I'm like, "My robe."
You've told me some good stories about your trip home with the robe.
Yeah, man. But I found it. I have it again.
Oh, that's good.
Long story short, Prince Medici comes to my house. I'm having a crawfish boil or something like that. So he's a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend. He's an artist. Wants to come by. I'm like, yeah, bring the prince by. Cool. And he comes by and he like
Bring the prince.
he comes by and he's an artist and he likes my stuff and we start talking and he likes the cars and motorcycles and he's into cars and motorcycles and he's into skateboards and this and that. We start talking. He went to buy smart. We become friends. We're pen pals. You know, we're emailing each other back and forth. And he goes, "Man, I keep thinking you're like a knight." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "You're like a knight. You come from this place and you take care of these people and you do this and do that." I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "I'm gonna get you knighted." And I'm like laughing. I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "I get 2 people knighted a year. I gotta go talk to the Pope and this." I'm like, "Shut up." And then I'm like, "I don't think you can knight me. I'm Jewish, you know." And he goes, No, we are very progressive. We have even knighted the homosexuals. I'm like, what the fuck? This guy's nuts.
Yeah.
Like, the way he talks is like, that's another story. So, I got knighted. So he calls and I said, if these tickets come, I'm going to go. And until the tickets get here, I told Marisa, I'm like, this is bullshit. She says, I think it's real. And all of a sudden the tickets came. I'm like, fuck, we're going to Rome. I'm like, what the fuck? And we went and I got knighted. And it was really cool. And so where I was staying is, the Medici Church is a mini version of like the Vatican, and they have a tunnel that goes from there to the Vatican, and that church was his personal studio, and he used to take the tunnel and go paint it at night. So I was privy to see all these things where the priests stay right now is like a dorm, and they had a marble bust of a lady, and he had an affair with the lady that was sponsoring him, and it was her bust, and I go, is this like ancient porn? Making a joke in poor taste to the priest. And they laughed. They go, yes.
Yeah.
It was. And so I got to touch the sculpture. And I was just a lot of cool shit. And
That's amazing.
And I kind of blew it because they were wanting me to paint the wall. And I was like, I don't think I could do that, man. I think that's like sacred, and I don't think I should really fucking paint that wall with spray paint, this and that. And I went home that night to the hotel that night. I'm like, dude, what am I thinking? I gotta fucking paint that wall.
Yeah.
Next day I show up. I'm like, I got the idea. I'm ready. I'm gonna kill it. He's like, they thought about it. They're like, I don't think you should paint the wall. I'm like, fuck. I blew it because they had an easel set up in the middle of the studio and all this tarps, and I got to paint in the studio, which was cool enough for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really
Wow.
Who has that?
Prince Medici.
He has that painting. Wow.
And then he took me to his castle, and all these things are they sound grandiose, but they're like, their castle is like a big house to us. I'm like,
yeah.
It's like
But it's just that it's been there for centuries.
And he's like, he wants me to paint his dad's car. I'm like, his dad passed away, and he's like, can you paint my dad's car? It's a real honor. And I'm like, sure. I'm expecting some I don't know what am I expecting.
It's got to be a Ferrari.
Something, and I get this car, and it's like a 1970s granddad Jaguar. So I'm like, huh?
Yeah.
But anyway, it's cool. It was a great experience, and off mic, I'll tell you some stuff about the Prince because he's a very colorful guy.
So let's talk about your current new venture over here on the Boulevard.
Yeah. So we close on Tuesday. I think we get the keys on Tuesday. We're right down the street. We're neighbors now, and it's going to be a private gallery, invite only or appointment only kind of thing, and we'll do some events there. And I'm stoked.
That's awesome. That's amazing. Yeah, no, and I think for me, I was born and raised in this town, then moved to LA and lived down there for 30 years, and then coming back being here in this town with you, and both of us having young kids, whatever, it's amazing, and like such an honor to have you on our cans. But it made so much sense for you being you're a international legend, and it's just cool that we're here doing this. Like you're such a part of the fabric of this town.
I appreciate that because I feel like I finally feel like I have a home. That's what was missing for me. Like I traveled the world and I did all this stuff, and I lived in Beverly Hills. But it was a bubble, man. I didn't have like a home. I didn't have a home environment. I had a bitchin' tiny house. It's fucking like this big in Beverly Hills, and I sold that and got two big ass houses.
The compound.
Compound.
You have a compound.
Yeah. But I finally feel like I have a home, and I have a place to raise my daughters, and have a family, and I have friends and friends that have businesses in the family, and I feel a part of a community for the first time in my life. So it's really a great feeling. Yeah, I love it.
Is it you just won an award?
Yeah, I haven't got it yet, but I'm getting a Lifetime Achievement Award. And the funny thing about that is that they keep telling me this word. I'm like, cool. And they go, I said, well, I've got it. And they're like, Warhol, Herring, all that. Everyone that's dead. I'm like, oh, shit. So, like, it's on one note, it's like a super honor. Another note, I'm like, get my jinx, and I'm going to die tomorrow or something, Like,
well, they're dead when they got it, though, right?
Yes.
And you're still alive.
Yes.
So
but Shepard Fairey got it. Shepard Fairey's alive. He got it.
All right.
That's awesome.
So I guess someone else is alive.
Well, you're in good company there with
Yes.
that crew.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So that's in February in Miami. So we'll be there for that. That's super cool. The shark that was here is going to be there.
Oh, that's the same one?
Yes, I think they're trying to get that one there. It's sold, but they're trying to get it there.
It's in Texas, right? It lives in Texas
now? It lives in Texas, but they're trying to get it there. And we did another one recently, too.
Talk a little bit how you put that stuff together. I've seen that. It's insane.
Yeah, found objects. So going back to New Orleans, there's a man named Mr. Walter on Lake Pontchartrain. He used to walk the lake every day and collect trash and built this amazing park. And I thought that was super cool. And when I was a kid, I was running around the Watts painting, and I saw the Watts Towers. And I was like, dude, Mr. Walter was here? And everyone's like, what are you talking about? And I really thought that fucking Mr. Walter came over here and built the Watts Towers because it looked exactly the same. And they're like, no, dude. And anyway, long story short, I started paying attention to found object art and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. So I started collecting everything I've ever had. You've seen my place. I have just boxes of shit and storage units full of shit and warehouses. And I pulled them out. And Damien Hirst being one of my favorite artists, I wanted to pay homage to him with the natural history series that he did. And he said, so I was going to do a shark. And I took all these pieces out to make this shark. And my mind got all fucked up. And I went on another tangent. I abandoned the shark. And I did a cop car because he said the shark was the world's biggest predator. I'm like, if you ask someone from the hood, the cop's the world's biggest predator.
Nice.
So the shark became a cop car.
Right.
And you know how he cuts all the animals in half? So I cut the cop car in half. And that was my first shark sculpture. Technically, it was a cop car. And then, long story short, after the shark. After that, I went back to the shark, finished the shark, welded all objects together, and I love that. And it was here for a while, yeah.
What kind of objects are in it? Like, I remember seeing like a wrench or like
gears, wrenches, knives,
guns.
You know, chains. But I had some. I've had a lot of friends retire some dirty guns, man. Like I take friends and acquaintances of people I don't know. I take pride in the fact that people have dropped off guns to get them off the streets for me to destroy, make art out of them.
That's awesome.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, and again, like, this town is really lucky to have you here, and the fact that you let that, like, you know, that you put that thing in here and let people come and enjoy it. Like, I mean, like little kids, a lot of them just kids, like, you know, are we allowed to touch it? And you're like, you're allowed to
jump
touch
on
it, man. And they
indestructible.
Kids would just mesmerized. I mean, not just kids, adults. Everyone was like, yeah, it was awesome when we had it here.
I'm still trying to get, like, I've built a couple since then. I built a dolphin and a couple more sharks and you know.
Yeah, the new one is like,
selling, I'm trying to get one in here.
The chrome, like the super chrome looking one, dolphin, right? Is that your new one?
That's the newest one. Yeah,
chrome,
it's not chrome. But I
like
painted it with candy car paints, so it shines. It's like,
it's shiny.
Yeah.
That one's bitching.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Man, I really want to get another one in here, but like, you know, it's a good problem to have.
They disappear fast.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah.
They swim away.
Yeah. If there was any way you could have one that could hang from the ceiling, would be amazing.
Oh, you know what? I have a different one, but I have one. I'll show you. Yeah. It's totally different, but it's cool. Speaking of that, the Rolling Stones. So they have these big 9-foot tongues that go on tour with them, right? And they go outside Madison Square Gardens. They go in the backstage, VIP area, or stuff like that. There's 9 of them. And I guess I made the short list. So someone contacted me and said, you can have one of these things to do your thing with it.
Right.
It's not a collaboration with the Rolling Stones, but it is original Rolling Stones merch or whatever, the property of.
Right.
And they let me get this to do my thing with it. I think it's a huge honor.
Is it going to be neon? Like the neon one?
I'm going to do it like the shark.
Like the shark, okay.
Yeah. And the thing, I was like, I didn't realize how special it was. I go, what happens if I don't want it? And they go, they take it to the landfill and destroy it. I'm like, what?
No way.
They go, there's a very short list of people who have the opportunity to get this, man.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, that's really cool. So, you know, I've done all these Stones pieces, and I have this unofficial, you know, they're cool with it. I think it's a pretty cool thing.
That's pretty legit.
But I can never duplicate anything. It's got to be one-offs, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But the thing's like 2 tons, and it's huge. But maybe one of those will...
Wow.
We'll have that same problem getting it in the door, though.
Yeah. That might be worth, like, rework, trying to figure out. Maybe we need to take some walls out and get it in here.
Right.
Yeah, it was funny. The shark.
Did we cut off like 2 inches?
Yeah, you did cut it. Yeah. We couldn't get it. I wanted it in here.
Yeah.
And then it didn't fit, but we could get it in here. And so it was over there for a while. And then you guys took it. And when you brought it back, they cut it. And then your guys are like masters. Like the way that they got it through the door, man. Like it was like they put it on like pipes and like rolled it. And like they had to take the door, even with the cutting, they still had to
take the door off.
They removed our door and put it back in. And and it was in there for a little bit. And then obviously when it went back out again, when you sold it, we had to take the door back out again.
I can't imagine. You guys must be just masters of how to move things and
pack
those
things. Guys, your crew over there, they're
yeah, man, it's crazy. It's scary too because we're in a lot of really high dollar facilities now, and I just get nervous. I'm like, oh god. And they're taking shit apart. I'm like, oh,
they're
fuck.
so good, though.
Yeah.
Have you ever lost anything or broke something?
Yes.
Probably many things. Yes. No, but they use like the way they use like poles and dollies and like all this stuff and the way they move these things. It's like really interesting to watch. And then the way they get things in and out of the truck, and they're masters.
Yeah, you know what? I always was amazed by like the Mayans and stuff, like how they do all this shit. And my guys are a mini version. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, they really are.
Like, I always people are like, oh, you can't do that. Yeah. I look at my guys, they're like.
Yeah, they got it. Yeah.
So, it's cool. but it's like it's true, man. Like they're masters at leverage, and you know they have that shit down. They blow me away.
Yeah, and they're, which was bring me to I remember when which we can talk about next, the Mickey record at your place. I remember we were in there and they were trying to figure some stuff out, and all these guys were like, "Oh, what are we gonna do with these wires?" And we could go in the other room, and I was like, "I know what to do." And I went out to the guys and I was like, "Hey, can you come in here?" And they're just like, "Oh yeah," like, drilled holes in your wall and ran cables and stuff. Yeah. But so tell us about how the Mickey record came about.
So Mickey's a good friend of mine. He's been a friend for years. He's in a crew called CBS, and we did graffiti together. And he was a little younger than me. I was a little older than him. And a lot of those guys used to look up to us because we were a crew called WCA. They were CBS, and it was kind of like brother crews. And, you know, over the years, we've just always been friends. And we all went in different ways. A lot of people in graffiti went to music, and Mickey's one of them. And Mickey came out and did happy hour a couple times, this and that. He loves the vibe of this place, and he's like, I want to do my record here. And, like, you know, Mickey's the kind of guy that you talk about stuff, and all of a sudden, like, the next day, like, there's a truck. I'm like, what are you doing? It's like, well, you said. Like, you know, and that's how it happened. So I was like, yeah, let's do this. And I really wasn't fully understanding that he had a band from Bali coming in and that they were supposed to stay at my house. Like, I didn't really get that. Yeah. And it was great. And those guys are amazing. I love it. And I loved every ounce of that. It was great. But that's how it happened. So I talked to Mickey at happy hour, and he's like, let's do this record here. And then speaking of Thousand Oaks and creative people, we have Rome here too, right? Yeah. Rome's a great guy. He's an award-winning producer, Grammy-nominated producer, works with Flavor Flav, big in the hip-hop thing. And he was like, so let's do this. Like, he was pushing me, and then we had problems. And I called you. I was like, call John. Like, and it just came together. You know, you brought the equipment and some of the equipment, and it was a really special family moment, I guess, so to speak, without being corny. And it was really cool. And so that record happened. And since that record, Rome got a record deal.
Yeah, he told me.
Yeah, and he's trying to get me one. I don't what am I gonna do? But he's like, I don't know. You know this world better than me. He's like, he wants to get me some deal. What is it called?
Probably like a production deal or something.
Yeah. And he's like, you got to do it. Anyway. But anyway,
you should do it.
Yeah, he's like, I don't know what the fuck.
Yeah. Well, no, it's funny. One of the things we were talking about was when Mickey was on, and we talked a lot, mostly really, I guess, about him, that record coming together at your place and stuff like that, and like coming from like I built a couple studios for Zinger, I've built a couple studios for myself. I've built multiple studios in my life, probably half a dozen, I'd say. And it's like, it's very complex and complicated, and there's like, and so when Mickey's talking, like, he's like right away, like, hey, he doesn't know anything about any of this shit, but he's like, we're just gonna do this. And I was like, and then remember when Rome, we started talking, I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. And then they're like, and Josh Freeze is coming on Monday. And I go,
and so I was like, Josh Freeze is coming. I'm like, what? Yeah. Josh Freeze is coming to my house to play drums? Like,
you got like the greatest studio drummer of all time coming around. So there's no studio there. It was like, and I was just saying, like, if it wasn't for you, as resourceful as you are, and as many people as you know in all industries and walks of life, whatever, never in a million years could that have been pulled off.
Yeah, and it came off smoothly. Which was crazy. Yeah. And, Josh, such an amazing guy, told us after, he goes, I want to be the studio. He goes, I have a feeling you do more records here. Yeah. I want to be the studio drummer, like the house drummer.
The house drummer.
The risk in-house drummer.
Okay, I guess so.
Yeah. And then also the Eagles of Death Metal guys, obviously, like those guys.
Jesse's amazing.
Yeah, like, Jesse is like a mad scientist.
I talk to Jesse all the time, and like Jesse, Jesse's so cool. He's gifted me some really cool stuff, a skateboard and a guitar and all these things, and he calls to make sure the studio is still intact and ready to go. I'm like, it's still here.
Yeah.
But Rome, how about when Rome saw all the equipment? That's when we called you. Rome's like, Like,
yeah, I know, exactly.
Well, I remember, John, you said something like just the room itself. You're like, nobody else but Rome could make that work.
Well,
it's just glass room, right? It's like,
that in that room, and then also in the drum room, basically, it was talking about like Josh.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Josh, like he literally was adjusting how he was playing to make that room work.
Yeah.
Like I think there's maybe 5 other drummers on the planet who could make that room work the way that it was.
Yeah.
You know, like
and he was pushing people too. Like he was like, "Let's go!" Like he kept the train like moving.
Oh yeah, because he knows that, because that's his deal. Like he goes in and does a record in a day. Like that's his gig, you know. Yeah. And then another thing too, when I talked to him, I got to talk to him, and that night we were hanging out, and I remembered a long time ago I read an interview that he did, and someone was talking about like how like if you look at his discography, it's insane. Like he's played. Like he's on more records than any one person, I think. Like he has, it's probably some kind of world record. And they were asking like how did this happen? How do you do this? And he's like, I just have this philosophy in life that anytime somebody asks me to do something, I say yes.
It's an opportunity.
I don't care what it is, I say yes, and then I figure it out, you know, like. Yeah. And then obviously if you're at his level or whatever, obviously there's kind of only one way it can work. It's like he's like, I'm gonna be here for a day. Yeah. So figure it out. Yeah. Like you don't get like.
He doesn't look at financials. He goes, I'm not doing anything for free. Yeah. But I'll work within what you have, and we'll figure it out. And sometimes he'll figure it out later. He just wants to get the music done. Yeah. Great guy.
Yeah, amazing dude, and like so good and so versatile. I mean, he's played in so many different bands. Yeah.
Yeah, we had some great people come through to check that out, and I've gotten some amazing phone calls from people afterwards, like, is the studio booked? I'm like, it's not a studio.
But you should definitely take it there. You should let that evolve. Like let Rome help you, and I'm happy to help you.
I showed you that building. Talked about the building. I still go by there. Yeah. I don't know if it's off the market or not, but anyway, I think that's still something in the back burner, because I think it's like, we need a creative hub out here that's just I use the word man cave, but I use that lightly because it's more than a man cave. It's just a creative hub that we need to have space to do something outside of our genres, our day-to-days that we can get loose with,
Yeah. Yeah, amazing.
One of the things that we do on the show, John calls it tool, theory of overall logic. Yeah. So like tools in your toolkit. And I'm kind of going back to where I was a little bit earlier, like when you're younger, like there's a lot of younger artists now. And like you said, a lot of these ones are like do-it-yourself type artists on their own. Like, what kind of advice would you give those people looking for their path to like being able to do their art?
People probably hate my answer because it's so simplistic, but it's just I've said the same thing from the day one. Is like keep on keeping on. Like just keep doing what you do, and do it till it's painful. Do it till it's like you can't imagine doing it anymore. And just do it, and everything happens, man. Like, I've seen people that have no talent at all as an artist do it until they become fucking good, like, and because they believed in it. There's so many things like that, man. Like, I was watching the documentary on Shaq. Have you seen it yet?
No.
Shaquille O'Neal. But it talks about him being young and he had no athletic ability. And he became Shaq.
Yeah,
and it's the same shit though. He just decided that's what he wanted to do.
Do the work.
And then he just did the work and did it. Yeah. And I believe that. I think do it, just keep on, do it. Don't let anyone tell you can't do it. Because, every fucking art teacher I had, well, I've had some great ones too, but I've had a lot of art teachers tell me, like, yeah, it's cool, like, graffiti stuff's cool, but here, go learn this if you really want to be an artist. And it's, like, not true.
Yeah.
Is there anything that any of those art teachers told you to go do and you're against it, and then you did it, and you're like, oh, that was good?
Oh, 100%. I got kicked out of USC for that's a funny story. I said, can I paint on the roof or paint the roof? And my teacher said yes.
There's a very distinct difference there between those two things you just said. Which, let's clarify. Was it paint on the roof or paint the roof?
I don't remember. But
there lies the problem.
I painted the roof. So I went up on there and I painted a big mural of Tommy Trojan, and I did a wrist piece and all this shit. And it was crazy. It made the Daily Trojan front page, and everyone's like loved it. And the dean of the arts came up, and it was a lady, and she goes, oh my God, it's amazing. What's the medium? I'm like, spray paint. She's like, huh? And it was like, I was like, I can't believe that I'm talking to a dean of art acting this way. She's like, it's like anarchy. We can't have this. And I'm like, what?
This is paint that
You're
came
the
out of a
dean
can.
of art just saying this shit?
Yeah.
And I basically told her to suck a bag of dicks. And that was my exact words. And I got kicked out.
Yeah.
But I had 2 professors that were like, you cannot kick this kid out. He's going to be, I'm not going to say what they said, but they said some very flattering things. Like, he's going to be fucking famous. He's going to put our school on the map. He's going to And they rallied for me and got me reinstated.
Oh,
and they got me reinstated with a full scholarship.
Wow.
They went on to make a poster of that law and send it to every high school in the United States.
Wow.
No way.
So now fast forward 20, 30 years later, I'm doing my first museum show at MoCA Museum of Contemporary Arts in Los Angeles. And this lady comes up to me. She goes, "We did it. We did it." And she gives me a hug. And I'm like, hug her. I'm like, "Yeah, we did it." And she walks around. I'm like, "Who the fuck is that?" I'm like, "Oh, that's that fucking bitch."
That's Bag of Dicks.
Yeah, that's Bag of Dicks.
That's
funny.
Crazy. Well, she got you a scholarship.
Yeah, I don't remember all the details. But anyway, USC was amazing. I had some amazing professors. It was an amazing time. It was the most amazing school of fine arts I've ever been to. They adjusted the curriculum to cater to me because they saw I was really serious about graffiti. It was amazing. So, you know how, I'll give you little examples. Like, people do still lifes or fruit bowls or something like that. They're like, "What are you going to do?" I'm like, "I don't know. I'm going to spray paint hanging with a noose." And they're like, "Cool." And the rest of the class was pissed, going, "Why is he going to do that?" And they're like, "Because he's already more famous than you'll ever be." Because I had won the world whatever. And the teachers rallied for me. And it was really awkward at the time. That sounds cool, but it was fucking brutal. And it was the worst thing in the world when teachers would say that in front of the class because I was the most hated kid in the fucking art school. And anyway, all these graffiti artists flocked to USC after me, thinking they're going to have the same thing, and teachers were over it by then. They're like, "Fuck this graffiti shit."
Yeah.
So they all got shut down and had to do the regular curriculum. So I fucking kind of squeezed in there, and I had a...
You're first, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I felt like when I was younger and I was taking art classes, I felt like I kind of figured in my head that, like, they can teach technique, but that's basically like as far as it can go. Like, they can't teach you how to be an artist. You can't teach creativity. It's kind of something you have or you don't almost. Yeah. So they teach technique, but then that's the kind of, and then that's where that left off for me, and then I kind of moved on into music or whatever. But then my love for graffiti art and street art kind of came from like that your era and this time period your time out was, and it's exactly what you're saying, was that like there was no curriculum to teach those techniques.
Yeah.
So you didn't even get the base. Like, you guys were frontiering a new, like, the Bag of Dicks didn't even acknowledge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That is now one of the greatest mediums.
And I got to ride the whole roller coaster because, like, graffiti was like really hated, the tagging and everything. I was so new to it that it was so special. It was praised. People were like, "That's amazing.
Yeah.
Best thing in the world." And then people started tagging. They're like, "We hate you."
Yeah, right, exactly.
And then, we're in museums. We love you.
Yeah.
And then, years later, we're selling in galleries. "You're an overnight success." I'm like, So that's good.
Yeah. Well, awesome. This has been amazing.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is there anything else you got coming up that's cooking or whatever that we didn't touch on?
No, man, there's a lot of stuff. Speaking of Thousand Oaks, Sideshow Collectibles is a big toy company, one of the biggest, and they're located here. Nice. And I'm doing a toy with them, and that's a funny story. They're contacting me like to do this toy, this artist series story, because they do like Marvel, Star Wars, all this stuff, and hadn't done an artist series yet. And then they're like, "Where are you located?" I'm like, "Thousand Oaks."
And they're in
Thousand Oaks.
Oh my God.
What's the toy?
It's going to be a wrist piece. It's like a wrist graffiti letters that hangs on the wall and lights up. It's pretty cool.
Nice.
But I'm doing that, and I'm doing a new book with Roger Gassman from Beyond the Streets. And
what's in the book?
It's an art book. So I have a book that I did years ago with Roger Gassman. It was like an autobiography, and he was very keen on, like, we have to do the autobiography before the art book. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do the art book. And he's like, "Dude, no one knows who you are. You got to do the autobiography first, then the art book." Long story short, we're doing the art book now, so I'm really excited.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. When is that?
It'll probably take us a year or two. He goes deep. He's the guy that did the Beastie Boys exhibit.
Oh, okay.
And he did Beyond the Streets, and he does all these things. He's an amazing guy, and he does it well, and he does it deep, and he digs deep, and it takes a long time.
Right. That's amazing.
Sounds like a
looking
great
forward
type
to
of
that.
person to work with.
Oh, he's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, he's helped my career tremendously. He put together Art in the Streets and then turned it to Beyond the Streets. So those two shows are potentially probably the most important shows in the history of graffiti. And, you know, he was pivotal in both those shows.
Amazing.
Awesome.
Cool.
Right on, guys.
Thanks again, man.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you. I'll have you guys over to the live stream
Yeah.
soon.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Right on.
This weather sucks, but when it gets better.
Right. Hey, we'll take a little rain.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we need it, huh?
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.